Hello, everybody. I got it online somewhere. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Oh, my goodness. We are at 12:35, 34, 35, 32. Come on. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm never moved by numbers. I'm moved by knowledge. I'm moved by wisdom. We want to thank our interpreter who's here to interpret. And if you need Spanish interpretation, that is available as well. I want to thank you all for being at the 8th Annual Pathways to Hope Mental Health Conference. It has been phenomenal. I remember participating in this session. You know what? Why don't you leave the door open, since that door got a little Trick Daddy on it? Just leave it open. I'm good. The noise won't bother me. We had people just shaking the doors. They're like, let us in, like Noah's Ark or something, right? I do want to say, if you sat in this session before, I was supposed to stop at the halfway mark, and that would have constituted part 2. But I didn't have a signal of that, right? So I'm going to redo this whole session again. You can go to another one. I wanted to say, young man, you were in the first session. Nobody stopped me at the halfway point. So I taught the whole session. Girl, nobody, I'm like, where? And I didn't even realize it until the end. So I want you all to go ahead and go somewhere else. You got what you needed from here. And forgive me. I don't even know how that happened. I was just moving and grooving. So there are other workshops going on that are equally as wonderful and important, but we're going to do this one again because we have new people in the audience. This information is so relevant and so necessary to us understanding all things mental health. So you are in the virtual companionship movement training with me, Dr. Keely Petty. I am the national lead trainer with West Care Foundation, a behavioral health organization that has been around over 3 decades. We do mental health, we do trauma, we do wellness, we do substance abuse, we do recovery. And I am the national lead train on the trauma-informed ministry model, a new work that Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration has funded in 3 states. So the work is in Texas, it's in Wisconsin, and it is in the state of Georgia. And we do hope to expand over the time of the programming and the funding. But today we're talking about a movement that is at its core filled with some things that we're going to learn about. Today we're going to learn about what the model looks like and how to incorporate it if you unfortunately ever have to assist someone who's having a mental health infirmity. So I want you to know Shonda Rhimes, y'all should be familiar with her, an incredible African-American writer. She wrote so many good shows for ABC, How to Get Away with Murder. She did other Grey's Anatomy. This is the level of this woman's ability, who, by the way, suffered mental health issues. And this is what she said. She said, quote, "You are not alone. You are seen. I am with you. You are not alone." You'll want to highlight "you are not alone," because as we go through the conversation, you're going to continue to see that. I have to give I have to give you the information on where this comes from. This information is managed and disseminated, and I'm a national lead trainer through Pathways to Promise. I trained with them as a trainer. Now I'm a national trainer, and they are the ones that make sure that they manage and get this information into the community. Pathways to Promise connects mental health, faith, and culture, and have been doing so for 36 years. This is why I said 3 decades and some change. For 3 decades. However, we are in an hour where faith, mental health, and culture has never had an opportunity to come together. Hey, y'all were in the first session. Yeah. Nobody stopped me at the halfway point, which would have been part 2, so I'm teaching it again. If you don't want to be in here because that was my mistake, you all are welcome to go somewhere else, but you might hear something different that you didn't hear the first time. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. I loved your participation. Oh, you made it well. So you want to know that this is who this, if you're taking pictures, I cannot share the PowerPoint. It is theirs, and they will not allow me to share it or to send it to you other than the capacity that I'm training in. So that's where that came from. Who started this party? Well, his name is Reverend Craig Renenbaum. He is the creator of the model that I'm going to be sharing with you today. He is the one that had what I call an aha moment from God. He had a light bulb came on in regards to mental health, the church, and what's happening culturally. We had not heard about mental health to the degree that we're hearing about it now until COVID caused folks to be in isolation. You cannot use this model alone. You may feel alone, as we said with the quote, but you are not alone. So he created this model as a way to engage with individuals who were experiencing, he had a heart for homelessness and mental illness because that is a braided stream. What do I mean? I mean that many people who are homeless have mental health issues. That's documented. But also people who end up with mental illnesses may end up homeless. So he had a compassion for that, and he sat down, put pen to hand. We know the scripture says that the vision should be written so that those who read it can then run with it. I am a runner, and you will be a runner after today. So he also developed this model through roots in caring practices of spiritual community. The spiritual community, whether we know it or not, has always been engaged in mental health issues. There are 98 places in Scripture, maybe from 98 to 177 places in Scripture where you will see people who had mental health issues, who had demons, who were demoniacs, who were depressed. When you look at Jonah jumping ship, that wasn't because he just wanted to jump ship. He was in a moment of crisis, right? And he jumped ship. When you look at those who fell on their swords in the Bible, they were depressed because they lost the war or they lost the job, or God said, no, not you for the task. I'm choosing this individual. So there's so many places we can see in spiritual places, and this is why he went back to the most ancient faith traditions. What does that mean, Dr. Keely? That means your faith tradition may not be mine. I'm Christian. I'm a friend of God. I'm God's girl. I'm a kingdom chick. You may be a Buddhist. You may be of a different persuasion. And this is why his work wasn't just tethered to the Catholic, to the Baptist. He went back to all faiths. And guess what he found, y'all? Pain is pain, whether you are Buddhist or a Baptist. Pain is pain. Human infirmity is human infirmity. He also believed that the companionship is a principle practice. I tell everybody, highlight those 2 words, principle, practical. Because when you're dealing with individuals who are in a moment of mental health despair, you must operate out of principles, which means you know your boundaries, which means you don't bring people in your home, you don't go in their home, and I'm going to show you that as we go along the way. But you also want to be practical. You want to be practical. You don't want to use big words and big medical terminology. You just want to be practical in your response if you choose to respond. This is like a mission impossible. If you choose to do this, when you do it, you want to do it from a principle, practical, responding place to those who are suffering. Who's suffering? Your neighbor. Who is your neighbor? You could be your neighbor. You could be looking for somebody to go help, but maybe you need to put the oxygen mask on you first. So the companionship movement developed the capacity. It built the capacity of congregations and communities to do what? Reverend Craig's idea was, let's hit up the churches, let's hit up the synagogues, the mosques, the temples. Let's hit up every place where people congregate, right? You hear the word congregation and you automatically assume that it's a church, but I'm congregating when I go to a restaurant. That's a congregation of people, right? What was his vision? So his vision was congregations. Who was his who? His who was congregations. His what was communities to support and develop wellness. I'm going fast. I'm going to slow down. If you have any questions as I'm going, please raise your hand. So let's start with the definition. You always want to know the name of a thing because the name of the thing expresses its character. Do you know what your name means? I found out what my name meant only in my late 30s, and it transformed my life because I was raised, told that I was switched as a baby in the hospital. I was told, I'm telling you, I was told my nose was wrong, so I should pull on it to give it a more pointy effect because it was too puggy. I was told I was ugly. I was called every name that Samuel L. Jackson uses. Y'all know Samuel L. Jackson. He got a few favorite words, right? So that was what I embodied. And that embodiment led to moments of mental health infirmities. It led to depression and insecurity and rejection, and not just to my personhood, but to the plan that God had wanted to unfold in my life. You know, when you feel rejected, you're immobilized. When you have insecurities, you put limits on yourself, and that opens you up to limited beliefs, which I had in a bad way. So I'm saying all of that to say you don't have someone standing before you who's just peddling information. I'm here by inspiration and revelation and by the provocation of God who saved my life from despair, because embodying all of that in mental health led me down a drug path, right? I know what a strip search, bend over pull, I know what all of that is. But look at me now. You Google me now, you're not going to find none of that. Isn't that wonderful? Oh my God, that's a wonderful thing. And I love my life and I love what I do. So when we talk about companionship, let's get this straight. It's not between you and your dog, you and your fish, you and your bird. They are a companion to you, but I don't know nobody that's diagnosed the birds and the bees mental health infirmities. If you do, let me know. But we are talking about a relationship between two equals. Highlight the word equal. Highlight the word mutuality. So it is a relation. Is it a long relationship? No. It's just moment to moment, and I'll show you that as we go. But how you know the marker is that we are equal and we are marked by mutuality because we are human beings. You're not better than me because you live in 78209 and I live in 78203. You're not better than me because you went to the University of I did it yabba dabba dabba and I went to St. Philip's. I went to a community college. You're not better than me. You're not better than me because you're white and I'm black. You are not. I'm sorry, we have been taught that, but we are neighbors. What we are. I met a neighbor named Tom Plant today. How you doing, neighbor? Tim. Okay, see, I don't have my glasses on, right? Which is a mark of mutuality. Some of us got to put on our readers so that we don't call a thing that's the wrong thing. He's like, I ain't no Tom, I'm Tim, right? So thank you, Tim, for being here, but I'm your neighbor today. I may never see you again. I hope that doesn't happen. But if I don't, in this moment, we are neighbors and we are fellow citizens. So companionship is a relationship in this model. Companionship is a medical, is a scientific. You can find companionship between different dynamics, but for the sake of this conversation, we're talking about a relationship that is responsive. What do we say? A practical response to what? Someone in distress or suffering. You may get tired of hearing this, but this is one of the things that Reverend Craig wanted to establish early in this movement, that it is a relationship, and it's that you are responding to someone who's in distress. It is a relationship that is supportive of recovery and wellness. I am not showing concern for you in a moment of stress for a short period of time. It might be, I don't want to stretch it beyond what it's supposed to be. How many of us have time to do that? Well, we have time to be with an individual for 20 years in their recovery. We don't have time for that. I wish we did. That's for another level of work. So it's a public relationship. I'm helping you. I'm your companion. I'm coming alongside you to help you. I'm coaching. I'm empowering. I'm encouraging. But this is not a private relationship. I don't need to make you my boo after I help you. I don't need to become your lover or your partner after I help you. It's public. And the model simply looks like this. Here we go again. The key word in this model is the word distress. And distress is a neighbor thing, if you're taking notes. So his motto says that we should be able to look at another human being because we are marked by mutuality and we are equal as human beings. I should be able to approach you properly. I should be aware. I don't have to be a doctor, but I certainly should understand mild, moderate, and severe forms of mental illness. I'm talking mild and moderate in this space, because if it's severe, that's a whole nother level of work that you would need to provide. So here we see the distress has to be reviewed by what approach am I taking? Am I aware of what you're saying to me? Am I clear in the interpretation of what you're saying? Am I companioning you by stopping and caring? Or do I say, ain't nobody got time for that? That's a modern saying, culture. Ain't nobody got time for that. Somebody has to have time for the neighbor who is in distress, who's in your home, who's in your church, who's on your job. Do y'all know we never had language like they've gone postal until an employee went back to their post office job, having been there, having I sat in the cubicle with you, girl. We went to each other's kids' birthday parties, quinceañeras. We clubbed and went to, we did some things that we were in fellowship together. You get a pink slip that says they're letting you go. I come back like, hey, y'all, I'm just coming to get my stuff, and I shoot up everybody. I've gone postal. So what happens in that? Who could have stopped and cared? We don't know, because this language and this information has not been disseminated and released. You also want to be able to say, you know what, I can hug you right now, but you need another level of help. So I'm gonna pass the baton to some other partners that I know in the community who have professional resources, who have therapists, who have a whole nother level of need that you need. And after I do all of that, I'm going to make sure that I do a follow-up, after action plan. I'm going to check on you, in other words. I don't know, is that email, is that phone number, some sort of way I want to be able to come back and check on you. Now, I said this in the previous session, would you change the way any of these are flowing? Would you change the way any of these are flowing? Because I would. I want to see who else can catch how I would put that in a different order. What would be the person who's in distress? What would be the first thing a champion, a companion rather, would want to do? There you go. No, you want to stop and care first. None of this other stuff can happen if you don't stop and if you don't care. Because you're not going to be aware. You're not going to approach and say, hey, what's happening? How can I help? You're not going to do that. You ain't going to partner with professional, and certainly you're not going to maintain the connection. So I say, I can't change this model because this is how he put it together, and I don't have the authority to do that. But in my teaching, I was told you teach it the way you teach it, through your personality and your professionalism. I would change companion, stop, and care above awareness and approach. Awareness and approach is sympathetic. Stopping and caring is more empathetic. And I'll show you the difference between that. Any questions at this time? We're at the video, young man. Any questions before we show this video? 2 questions. Yes, Tim.
You said it doesn't apply to severe mental health. I think it does. I don't know why it wouldn't.
It would, in the sense that I can't handle this, so I'm going to pass you on to, yeah, so I'm fixing it. Can I fix it? Please let me fix it. You're right. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. This model can help with severe. However, the practicum of that means you don't do none of this, you immediately go to professional help. And for those of you who ask questions, I give out a gift. You get a free Slurpee from 7-Eleven. Okay? That's participation. So I stand corrected. Okay, all right. So we see that again. We talk about mild, moderate, and severe forms, right? Mild will be anxiety and depression. Moderate is where that's there. I may be not able to move out of it as quickly as I could. Psychosis, something like psychosis would qualify for the severe, right? And most of us are not ready to do the severe. We're ready to cry with people. We're ready to sit with people. But I don't know what to do with you if you're hearing voices. If I have a third eye, if you're looking at me and you see a third eye, many of us don't know what to do with that. And that is why I said what I said. This model can, but you're going to have to really have your tool belt loaded so that you can provide that appropriate help. We're ready for the video now. I want y'all to watch this. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry, I saw another hand. Yes, sir, Donald.
I just wanted to ask, was your comment about the word postal rhetorical, or did you want to know the reason why it came to be?
Well, I explained the why it came to be because an employee, this was in the news some years back, he came back.
So the stress is systemic in the postal system.
Sure.
And so some people are not able to handle it. And that particular unfortunate individual couldn't handle it. And
he couldn't handle being let go from his job.
Right. And there were some copycat people.
Sure.
Professions.
Mm-hmm.
But the postal profession was the one that got tagged.
Yeah, it's a stressful environment. Those who are psychologists and in psychiatry, this is discussed because now we have new language. And that language was never a part of our culture. As I showed you earlier, this work looks at mental health, faith, and culture. So there have been some cultural changes in the language of mental health outburst, and that term, they have gone postal. Just like they say it's a pill Cosby. You can order a drink now called a pill Cosby. Right? They have a drink. How traumatizing is that for the women who were subjected to his abuse? So I brought that up. Thank you for your injection, but I brought that up to let you know we have new language. What do I mean by that? You can't be going around saying, "Ooh, they crazy. Ooh, they cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs." No, this is a person living with a mental illness. Why? Because you always want to have person first, person-centered language. But thank you for that. We're ready to watch the video now. I want you to pay attention to as much as you can. Every little jot and tittle, every picture you see, every nuance. Pay attention. It's going to tie into what we're doing really well. Love that. What did you see? What stood out for you? I know for me, I'm going along and I'm trying to do good. He pulled that money out and somebody saw it, right? And he ended up in a distressing situation. What did you see? What captured you in that video? Yes, Christian.
It was a homeless individual who, I guess it was like, maybe it's like a bad word, but like being the bigger man.
Yeah, That's not a bad word, perfect.
You know, the other guy didn't want to help him, but
Yeah,
he helped him.
yeah. And isn't it cool that the guy that pulled out the money and was, right, that individual ended up helping him, thank you, helping him in distress. What else did you see?
Well, he was taking him home, maybe. I don't know where he was taking him in the taxi, but I wouldn't get in the taxi.
No, the taxi at the end?
Yeah.
No, the taxi at the end was where they caught the criminal. And they were taking him off to jail.
Right, but when they left the hospital, they both got in.
Yeah, yeah. I assume he was taking them to the hospital because this is a public relationship. I made an assumption.
That was after the hospital.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, in other words, we all get different things out of what we see, right? I liked how the dog sniffed the toes, and even when the dog jerked back, the owner of the dog said, I'm going with what the dog said, right? Yes, ma'am. And then I saw your hand, Tim.
The homeless person stayed with
Bought flowers. Yeah.
healing process.
He promoted recovery and wellness very well. Yes, sir, Tim.
I was just going to say, it looked to me like the criminal stole the police car.
See the different perspectives we can get? Yeah. Very good. So when this model, it has a concern in 6 places, and we see that this model is for those who are traumatized, those who have mental illness, whether mild, moderate, or severe. There may be a substance use disorder at play. There may be children and youth mental and behavioral health issues. There could be insecure housing or threat of joblessness, just like we saw in Maui recently with the fires. What they're saying, hey, all of Maui did not burn up, just this. And I've been to Maui 3 times, and I remember being in that area, taking pictures under the banyan tree. All of that is gone. But on the south end of Maui, where the hotels and the resorts are, that's still open. They're saying to us, please come, because that part of Maui is open. Then there are issues of aging. There is the older population suffers from mental health issues. You don't want to know why? Because of being alone, because of health problems. I don't see my kids anymore. I'm by myself. It could be a plethora of issues. I mentioned earlier that we pick up signals of distress through what? What we hear, what we see, what we feel, what we smell, but we must operate out of sensitivity and compassion and concern. This is a threefold cord that is hard to break in the resolving of mental health infirmities. Sensitivity will lead you somewhere. It'll lead you to feel sympathy and empathy and compassion. Your homework assignment is to know the difference between those words. What's the difference between sympathy and empathy? What's the role of compassion? And since Reverend Craig went back to the most ancient of faith traditions, we know that when we read about the God that I am persuaded by, it said Jesus was always moved with compassion. He was supernatural, but the compassion was the natural part of him to help service humanity where they were bruised and broken. So you must also understand that feeling is coupled with concern, both conscious and unconscious, right? It's a feeling. You feel this. I feel like I want to help. I feel like I want to go on, right? You have a feeling. So what we saw in the video is a perfect picture of this moment here, because we saw that concern led to action. You cannot be concerned and not follow up with an action. So in the video, what did we see? We saw those who chose to pass by. Y'all remember those who passed by? One of them that passed by was the gentleman who he wanted to help, and you could tell. He stopped. Remember, you stop and you care when we looked earlier. He did that, but then He looked at his watch and he's like, yikes, I got to get back to the office, or I got to get back to wherever I'm late. So he chose to pass by. We can choose to observe. You've done this. If ever there's been a wreck on the freeway and you are en route, the traffic, it's like the wreck is over there. Why are we slowed over here? That's because people are choosing to observe. And sometimes your observing can hold up some things. I'm not here to talk about, but so you can choose to observe, or you can choose to approach. And it's always those of us who have the less. We always seem to want to help those who are suffering. He picked that man up in the video and put him on his wagon. But he stopped, he cared, and he did something. So when we talk about this companionship, you must remember it is a process. It is a process of awareness. It's a process of connection. It's a process of partnerships. And it's a process of mutuality. That is not in a linear way. Those can happen in any way, right? But the order that Reverend Craig, his process looked like what we see in these graphs. The awareness is like, okay, I'm aware of you. It looks like a radio signal, right? Then you get to the connection component where we have actually connected. Now you and I are connected, and I am connecting you to community resources. I'm connecting you to community partnerships. I'm connecting you to the resources that I don't have, but I know where to go get them. Then we see that there is mutuality. You heard me say earlier that this is a public relationship. It is a relationship of equality. It is marked by mutuality because we are all human beings, right? So that's what those graphs show, that at any time, I love this one here, the mutuality, because at first it looked like me connecting you to sources, but at some point in time, I may need to be connected to those same resources, right? The tide could turn. So the model looks like this. This is what's in the model of the companionship movement. It's 5 practices. Keep in mind, these are things you have to practice. You practice being hospitable. You practice being neighborly. You practice being with someone alongside of them, right? In the Greek, that is the word parakletos. It means one that comes alongside. You get to come alongside of somebody who's distressed. And I like the number 5 because it's so befitting to this model and this movement, because it simply says that the number 5 is symbolic. It's representation of freedom, curiosity, and change. And that is what anybody who's in a distressful moment wants. They want freedom. They're curious about the outcome and how the possibilities of that will happen. And they most definitely want change. Nobody wants to stay in a place where they are not free, where they don't have expression of curiosity, and where there's no change. So hospitality, neighboring, side by side, listening, and accompaniment. I know for sure one of these will hop out at you. Nobody will get all of this in one bite. You won't get it in 2 bites. You get it by practicing. So when we talk about hospitality, something is simple. I'm helping you. You're in distress. I'm helping you. I don't know your name, but the first thing that I should do is ask an individual what they would like to be called. What would you like to be called? That is key in this cultural hour because people are transitioning, right? You've got people, men that are saying, I'm now a woman, and a woman saying, now I'm a male, and they may have changed their name, their pronouns, all of that world. So you want to start with the individual in distress by asking, who do you like to be called? Or rather, what do you like to be called? What's your name? What are your pronouns? I have people asking me now, what are your pronouns? I had to go learn that. I'm like, what they talking about pronouns? What that mean? I didn't know none of that, but I had to go and gain the knowledge so that I can make sure that when we're talking about helping people in distress, we don't choose who that person is. That moment chooses us. And we choose to do what we saw earlier. We either choose to pass by, we choose to observe and do nothing, or we choose to participate. So here we look at creating a safe space. We look at welcoming people with dignity and respect. I say if you don't respect yourself, if you don't carry or possess dignity for you, it's going to be difficult for you to operate out of this hospitality space. Then you offer rest and refreshment. You know, that may mean, can I get you a cup of water? Let's move over here so we can talk and I can hear you better. It's a lot of noise going on. So just simple information like that. So what are the characteristics for hospitality? We hear the word hospitality and we always assume it's somebody bringing me a plate of food, right? It's always, oh, they bought me coffee and donuts. But hospitality extends a little bit further than that. It looks at personal qualities. Maybe you're not hospitable. Think about if you walked in Walmart and they're supposed to be greeting you in a hospitable way, and they say something to you like, will you hurry up and get in here? Don't you see it's other people behind you? And I'm like, am I at Walmart? Where am I at? What is happening? You're in church. You sit down, you're ready for the day. And the usher or the porter comes and say, this is so-and-so, you got to get up from here. This ain't your seat. You didn't see that name tag. You didn't see that. You didn't see that on that seat. That's not hospitable. Is that hospitable? Oh my God. So you got to have some personal qualities to even start the process. You want to be committed to being hospitable in this space of mental health. You want to have good communication skills. And even if you don't say anything, you want, because there's nonverbal communication and then there's paraverbal communication. You want to make sure your nonverbal communication, like if your arms are folded, they in distress and you looking at them like, what you do to get in that situation? No, you don't want to have that. You want to be enthusiastic, not overly, oh, your mom died, oh my God. No. You want to possess leadership to let them know I'm here with you. And I've got the leadership assets to help you get to a good place. You want to be organized in your thoughts and what you're going to do. I see your hand, Tim. You want to also be knowledgeable of safety and hygiene issues. Here I say, if you can take somebody else with you when you're having to deal with the individual in distress, right? Normally, if the pastor has to go see a member who's in distress, they take an elder or a minister or a deacon or a deaconess with them as they are engaging with that person. And then you want to do the teamwork. I say go in twos. I say don't go and try to deal with a distressful situation alone. Tim, what is your question?
Just a comment. The thought that you inspired in me is the difference between the word companionship and the word companionable. What you're really talking about here is being companionable.
Oh, I like that.
Opens one up to a companionship.
Ooh, let's clap for Tim. That's good. Companionable. Wow, very good. Okay, so my neighbor, what does my neighbor look like? Well, it's a frameless relationship, and you want to at all costs avoid alienating people. What am I alienating them from? You want to keep in mind it's two human beings sharing a common space in a present moment like what I am doing now. But you want to avoid alienating people because of where they live, what educational experiences they have, even their politics. Oh, you're a Republican. I can't help you. Stay in your distress. Sorry. You're black. Oh, y'all been that way. You don't want to do that because that alienates people. You don't want to alienate them because of their holidays. They don't celebrate Christmas, they do Kwanzaa. You don't want to alienate them because you got 11 kids. Wow, you supposed to be having mental health issues. You got 11 kids? Family dynamics. You want to be aware, you don't want to separate because the dynamic could be an interracial dynamic as we're seeing culturally, wow, everywhere we see. You don't want to say, I can't help you because y'all a mixed family. I don't want to help you because you work where? Oh, no. And then you go to what church? Oh, no. You don't want to alienate people. We understand when we talk about neighboring that there's one man who encompasses I call the theology of neighboring, and it's Mr. Rogers himself. Everybody knows Mr. Rogers. I don't know if this new called the millennials, but many of us knew Mr. Rogers from PBS, and these are some very impactful facts that he brings to us. Number one, he says a majority of Americans, 57%, say they only know some of their neighbors. Far fewer, 26%, say they know most of them. Even in a digital age where you have neighborhood apps where we can check on each other. And I said earlier, sometimes I'm like, stop. I don't want to know all of that. I want you to chime in to me because it's dinging all the chime in when it's a real emergency. I see, Dr. Keely, your tree, you know, we had the storm and it got drenched. Your tree looks like it's about to crash into your home. I want that kind of stuff. That's what I want. And I might need help and prayer. Y'all pray for me. But we understand that even in a digital age, neighborly interactions are still more likely to happen in person than via or text, right? I live in an executive garden home, so I don't see my neighbors on either side. And what divides my neighbor's house is a courtyard. So every time they want to have pest control come out, she texts me. And I don't like it. I'm like, you can't come knock on my door. Can we be a little more, I'm letting you in my backyard when I'm possibly not there. Can we be more personable, right? So when we talk about what Mr. Rogers understood, he knew that about 2/3 of Americans, y'all, 2/3 who knew at least some of their neighbors, only 66% out of 100% would feel comfortable leaving a set of keys with their neighbor for an emergency. Who has the keys to your house? We talking about neighbors, not your mom, not your sister. Which neighbor has a set of keys to your house just in case? It says just for an emergency. I say if I give you a set of my keys, because see, I have concerns with the keys. I don't know if you're going to come in and go through my drawers, not drawers, my drawers. I don't know if you're going to open up my refrigerator. I don't know if you're going to go in my medicine cabinet because, you know, we put our prescriptions, you know. I don't want you knowing what I'm on. If I'm taking 5 milligrams of amlodipine or Lexapro because I have a little bit of depression because I went through a little something, I don't want you now looking at me because you went in there, you had my keys, right? So it's a little bit tricky. Social events like National Night Out gives us an opportunity to meet our neighbors. When we think about the rural community, however, you do want to keep in mind that people that live in rural communities, it differs from us in urban, more metropolitan areas because they aren't likely to interact with one another. And y'all know the answer why. I'm in a rural community. Why is it that I'm not able to interact with you? And that has to do with space proximity. Your farm is 5 miles from my farm, and vice versa. So space proximity has a true effect on people interacting as neighbors, talking about being neighborly. So that you'd have to think of a great way to do that. Another thing that this model looks at, and again, this was Reverend Craig Boningham's idea, is side by side. And side by side in this model looks like face to face. It looks like being in front. Now, face to face, I always have to say this, face to face is this, and in front of is this, but the function of them are different, and I'll show you that as we go along. There's the behind posture, and then side by side. Looking at this picture, who do you think is in distress in this picture? Is it the guy that's leaning on the wall? Is he the one in distress, or is the guy in the blue shirt? And how do you all come to that synopsis? Huh? Yeah. But what if the guy leaning in is like, man, I got some stuff going on, and I need some help. And he like, I don't know. See, he looked like, right? So you want to be able to look at this just as an example of face to face. And you are correct that, you know, he looks like, who you talking to like that, huh? Like, I can't believe you're talking to me like that. You know, it looks threatening, but that's one way a face to face could look, right? For me, I'm always thinking about proximity. Because if that person is in a mental health crisis moment, I don't know if we don't know what's in his pocket. Look like he got his hands in his pocket. What if he got a shank? What if he has a gun, a taser? We don't know. So you don't want to be all up on a person like that. What's wonderful about this is wonderful in a proper context. What did we say earlier? This is a public what? Relationship. This is more private, right? You dealing with someone who's in distress, don't get up on them like that. Excuse me?
They don't look like they're in distress.
Yeah, they're not in distress. They are not. They want some stress, but they're not in distress. But you don't want, if you are dealing or servicing an individual with mental health, you don't want to be all up on them like that. It gives the wrong signal. Now, if they are in front, this is just an example, they are in front. I say, who can tell me what's wrong with this posture? I'm in the back. I'm right here. I'm supposed to be helping the people in front. What's wrong with that posture? Yeah. But the other thing, very good catch, Christian. The other thing, I'm the leader. Remember we talked about leadership earlier? I'm not following you because where you taking me? I don't know where you're taking me. So I'm going and I want to help you, but I don't need to follow you because this is not a private relationship. It's a public relationship. Yes, ma'am. Was your hand up? Uh-huh. Okay. Yes, sir.
I just remember that I was helping out an individual who was a little out of it, and I made a mistake where I was walking behind him, so he forgot I was behind him, and when he came back, he came at me aggressively.
See? Thank you, Christian, for sharing that. That is why you don't want to do, even with that individual behind you. Aren't you the caregiver in this moment? What's wrong with this picture? Now, what I can tell you is right. It's marked by mutuality. What's mutual? They outfits. They matching. They're in agreement somewhere, right? Somewhere. This is a relationship where we got it so right. We dress alike. But you can obviously see what's wrong in this picture. Number one, she don't look like she's happy that he's behind her. She looks like, oh, snap. You know, she got that side eye look. What's in his pocket? Exactly. See, that's the kind of thing, as you are becoming a champion, you are championing, as we learned a new word today. Those are things you want to pay attention to. What did I say earlier? What did you learn earlier? That this work is sensitive and you can use all of your senses to assist someone. Oh, I love this one because it's a cloudy day, but she's like, I know right where I'm going to send you. I can't help you, but I know where to send you. That's what she's saying to me. And these two gentlemen are companioning in a way that it should be, where it's mutual, it's cooperative. That's another word we could add. So what did we see in those pictures we saw? This is a good place to take a picture. In the side-by-side model, because this is one of the models, we see that face-to-face could be intimate or it could be confrontational. In front could be leading or subservient. Behind, you could be coaching an individual or you could be pressuring them. Side by side says, you know what? We are going to look at this problem. We're looking out at the world together. There are no barriers and there are no special conduits. I am doing this alongside you, just like we saw in the video. He came alongside and no barriers. You could tell, obviously, this was a rich guy who was being helped by someone that was homeless, because remember, Reverend Craig had a focus in his vision on the homeless and those who were suffering from mental illness. Now, this is my favorite part because I had to grow and develop into this. I'm a social butterfly, I'm a chatterbox, I'm a trainer, I'm a facilitator, I'm a teacher, and I used to just jump in. Now I lean back and I do a lot more listening. Why? Because you are listening to that individual. That every individual has a story. You have a story. You have a story that you've shared, and you have a story that you've stored. You've put it up, you put it away. I don't want to talk about it. How many of us grew up in homes where we understood this mantra, what goes on in this house? Stays in the house. And how damaging that has been to so many generations of us. Because I'm a us. I grew up with that mantra. And it was so much horrificness going on. We didn't lack food or clothes. My parents were educated. We were considered upper middle class back in that time. Had vacations, but baby, somebody say baby, it was some trauma up in that house. So I have a story, you have a story, and your story is always past, present, and future. The past is open to interpretation. Can anybody tell me why? Why is the past of that individual story open to interpretation? When you think about it, let me know. But the present, we can have transformation right here, and then we can change the future. I see your hand.
For me, I believe it's because it's my narrative.
Right.
And there's always more sides to the story, but it's my interpretation of what I experienced.
Mm-hmm. It's open to interpretation because you're telling me the horrible stuff that happened, but I wasn't there. So I can't interpret your story for you. You can tell me the interpretation of your story, but I can't interpret your past because I wasn't there. Yes.
My daughters are grown now.
Mm-hmm.
And they've shared things with me, and I'm saying, that's not how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it did.
Mm-hmm.
No, that is not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I was there.
Yeah.
They were there.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the same agreement or
Perspective. Perfect. See? And that's what we're talking about. So I'm working with my neighbor who's in distress. I don't want to get stuck on the past. I want to operate from a present and a future perspective. So what we began to then, as I'm listening, I want to be able to say, not what's wrong with you. What's wrong with you? Why would you, as a San Antonio police officer, give a homeless man a fecal sandwich and expect to keep your job? Who remember that? And he fought and fought and fought to keep his job after doing such a foul thing to his neighbor. And you want to protect me? You want to be, you called to protect and serve me, and you gave a homeless man a fecal sandwich? That's what we're dealing with. So who had the problem? Did the police officer who did that have a mental health issue? And the person he was, yeah, something was going on. And I'm sorry, you don't need your job back. You need to go get in some therapy, and you need to find out why you think you're privileged. Because this relationship is mutual. And if you won't eat a fecal sandwich, why would you expect me to eat one? Oh, it's ugly, but that's what we're talking about when we're talking about this mental health and this trauma. But we want to be present to transform a circumstance right now. You saw that in the video. And the future can change as a result of that. And this is why we say recovery and wellness is what? It's possible. It's only possible because I'm in this transformative moment with you, and I know what to do. I know how to connect the dots. I know what my limitations are. I can only do so much, but I can make sure you get to a place of safety. So what happened is what is open to interpretation. Like you said, gave a good example. My daughter said, Mama, that ain't, and you can be taken back by that, right? But they saw it, they interpreted it different. And it may be painfully different. I know when I went to my mother in trying to recover, her thought was, I don't remember that. And I'm like, you don't remember cutting all my hair off because you was mad at my father? You don't remember giving me CTE because you beat me in the head so much? Really? Really, Mom? So the only thing left for me to do was transform my moment in that so that I could be here before you all today. I'm not just a talking head. I have lived experience, right? And I do what I do because I have passion. Listen, when you listen, you are listening for a soul story. Everyone has one. It begins early and it lasts throughout our lifetime. What are you listening for? You're listening for what that person's able to tell you. Because we went back here, we want to talk about what's going on. So when we ask what's going on, you want that person to be able to tell you what's going on. Don't be nosy and dig for more and more and more. Let them tell you what they're able to tell you. But you nosy, girl. What else and what else and what else? And then what happened? And what was next? Don't do that. Don't do that to a person in distress. I said earlier, you've got to be practical and principled in your response. It's unprincipled to press the button on an individual in distress for more information because you nosy. And then however they are able to tell it. Oh, I don't cuss no more. I love the Lord. And they use Samuel. They had a Samuel L. Jackson anointing on them. Every other word was mofo. Every other word, every other way they described it, it was so much profanity. Oh my God. You got to be the leader and be able to take that. Let them tell the story the way they tell it, and let them tell it how they tell it. This ain't the moment to tell them, you need to clean up your language. I'm not going to help you because you cussing too much. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to stand here and listen to that. Nobody talks to me like that. Then you're not mutual. then you don't understand equality. So equity in the equitable components of a relationship. So in listening, you want to know that listening is a gift. It's a gift. You want to listen for themes and feelings. You want to listen to you. This is paraverbal communication. What's your tone and your pitch and your pace like? They're telling you something sad and you're like, oh my God, that is so cool. No, wrong pitch, wrong pace, and wrong tone. Do yourself a favor and go and just look up nonverbal and paraverbal communication. It'll help you out so much with everything. You want to be careful with your responses. You don't want to be like they tell you something that you ain't never heard, that's filed, and you know it is. That's when you have to act like, you know what, I'm hearing you, but I'm here to help you. You want to listen over time. Don't rush that individual. I got to go. Can you hurry up and finish what you were saying? I really want to help you, but you taking too long. That's too many words. You don't want to do that. You want to listen to them, because in them telling their stories, they do have elements of hope and love. That's the place where they won't help. They really are crying out, but you got to be able to use instinct and discernment. Instinct is what God gave us naturally. You know, you get instinct like, I ain't going in that house. Something's telling me not to drive to work the usual way today, right? And you follow that instinct and you find out that it was a wreck. You would have never got to work that day. That's instinct. But discernment is that spiritual part, that spiritual gift that we get once we become Christians. God says, I'm going to give you something in the natural, but I'm going to also empower you in the spirit. So you want to be open to a person's soul story. And I like this because it's pink, and pink is my favorite color. And I just wanted to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like when you're talking to people, don't go into a false voice. I'm here to help you. I really want to help you. I'm the person that has been assigned to you. You got to watch all of that. Just be you. Put a mint in your mouth and be you. So 6 facets of effective communication. Listen, I added this because I could. I'm not changing what Reverend Craig, but for me, communication is key. And if you don't know how to talk to a person, how many of you have disciplined your child because their tone wasn't right? Who you talking to like that? You had to handle that. Well, in the context of this, you want to know that there are 6 places for better connection. And one of them begins with, are you paying attention? This person is in distress. They're crying, they're laboring, and you're on your phone. No, you want to be able to fully commit to paying attention. And to do this, you're going to need intent of fully understanding as opposed to rushing. See, you should be trying to get understanding, but you rushing them like we saw in the video, right? So you need to let the person you're communicating with finish what they have to say before you chime in. They standing there like, I'm the one with the issue. Will you shut up? Secondly, here we go. You want to monitor for nonverbal communication. The second facet of effective communication is to constantly and effectively monitor the nonverbal communication you are receiving. Go and look up nonverbal. I normally pull it up on my phone. Let me see if I can do that right now. Any questions right now?
I have paraverbal or nonverbal?
You do paraverbal, I'll do nonverbal. Because I just want to be able to...
Paraverbal is a communication, for example, speed, volume,
tone, pitch.
Sends our messages clearly as the words we use.
Yeah, and when we talk about nonverbal communication, we're talking about the gestures, your voice. We're talking about your expression. We're talking about your body posture. Are you slumped over? They telling you, it done slumped you over. No. No. We also look at, when we talk about nonverbal communication, we talk about you know, your body posture is important, but you also want to posture yourself in a way that if they want to strike at you or kick you or you know, you're not really paying, but you want to keep a safe enough distance so if you have to weeble wobble or duck and drop and roll, you're able to do that. So when monitoring your nonverbals, you should always be checking, do they align with what you're saying? Right? It's about alignment. Then you want to make sure you paraphrase and repeat back. That's simply saying, you know how you talk to your children? Did you understand what I said? Tell me what I just said. That's that moment. This is the third facet of communication, to ensure that you play back what you've heard. Am I, sir? Am I, ma'am? To understand that your request is yada, yada, yada. And that's what that looks like. Paraphrasing and repeating back, it confirms a mutual, there's that word, a mutual understanding, and it helps to build the relationship with the person you're communicating with. Remember, we're building a relationship, not a long-term relationship, but long enough to get that person to the help and the support that they need. This is where you're going to need to work on yourself, making assumptions. Because we've all driven by people out on the corner with they can, and we've made an assumption. Unconscious or consciously. Remember we talked earlier about unconscious or we've done it. So what we want to understand is that when you're communicating with someone, it is important to ensure that you've covered all of the aspects, right? You should ask questions to ensure that the person you're communicating with has covered those relevant areas. And if you find yourself making assumptions, you need to stop, back up, regroup, and then re-engage. I've said this and I'll say it until my dying day. If you judge a thing, you cannot help a thing. If I've judged you, I have restricted all hope and all possibility of change. So you want to encourage the communicator, the person in distress. You want to encourage them to talk. We can't companion an individual if I'm not hearing from you. I need to hear what is happening. So you do that. When communicating, you should seek by asking relevant and helpful questions. Don't be asking questions that have nothing to do with that moment. You have to stay laser focused on helping in that moment. And how do I do that? When you're quiet and they're talking, a way you communicate, you could nod like this. You could smile, not no crazy smile, right? Not no joker smile. You just want to let them know, you know, I hear you, I'm with you, because you are not alone. Remember we opened up with, you are not alone. I see you, I'm with you. You are not alone. So you smile, you nod, you say, yes, do share. That's what I say. I don't say, go on. I say, do share. Is there anything else that I need to know? Is there anything else you'd like to share? And that's how you feel, how goosey that feel. That feel nice. That feels good. And that's what you want to do. You want to go on and you want to adopt an open body language. You also want to use the gift of visualization. I can see you about to cut up. I can see you about to clown. You got to be able to use the visualization because it's important to keep your mind on the message throughout the conversation. The clearer you are of what that person is communicating and trying to get across, the more you're going to be aligned with the framework, with what they're thinking, how they're thinking, right? You're going to be in perfect alignment with that, and you'll be more effective. When you try to visualize their message or end state is a helpful tool to help you. It's like a sponge. I call it a sponge focus on those main points. Now, you have to understand you're not the shero and the hero all the time. Because you have limits and you have boundaries. If the oceans did not have boundaries, the earth would be in a constant tsunami. If the sun was just a tad bit closer to the earth, we wouldn't be here because it would be on fire. Now, I know this weather got us feeling hell hot now, but I'm saying from a scientific perspective, I'm telling you what I've studied. If it's just a little bit, if things are not aligned and you want to know that limits and boundaries have been graciously given to you. How many of you can climb a tree like you did as a 5-year-old? Can you climb a tree? You young, but I can't. I can't run track. I can't rock climb. Shoots, I'll be trying to swim and here come that leg cramp because I have limits. The leg cramp let me know I have limits. You have limits physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Acknowledging your limits creates reasonable boundaries, right? And then this is when you can tell that individual who's in distress, who is your neighbor, who this relationship is public, who we are marked by mutual. You can say, I'm not able to do that, but I can lead you to where you can get the help. You don't have to precursor with, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Just get that out your language. Now, when I need to say I'm sorry, say it. But I'm sorry, I can't help you. No, you done put another burden on them. What you want to do is pivot. And you want to say, listen, man, we've had a great dialogue. I know you are on your way to recovery and wellness, but sir or ma'am, this is not an area that I feel sufficient in assisting you in. Let me take you over to Tim. He is very knowledgeable in this information, and I'm sure he has time to assist you. If y'all are getting it, say I'm getting it. When we look at the accompaniment here, remember we're talking about a model. The accompaniment says, led by the other. You are to accompany and not to guide. You ought to be faithful to your limits within the contexting of the companioning community. And remember, it is a journey, and the nature of the journey, it's a journey. It's not a destination. I'm in my destination years because I'm of a certain age. I know I don't look like it, but I'm in destiny at this destination, right? Meaning I got to get it taken care of now. Journey means I'm willing to stroll through the nuances and ebb and flow with this individual until they get help. So why a therapeutic accompaniment, rather, is an indispensable tool. Why? Because it helps people with different limitations overcome barriers, right? This tool can, in other words, let me give the example. For example, keeping them from leaving their home or visiting certain spaces. If you know they're in a mental health crisis, they may not need to leave the house. But if they're in a hoarding situation and having a mental health issue, they do have to leave that house. If you've ever watched the show Hoarding, you know why. Because it's become a contaminating effect, not just on you and your house, but on that whole community. Ouch. So again, this can improve people with social anxiety. Here's what some of the characteristics when I talk about therapeutic accompaniment. It is therapeutic when you go to the massage. If you ever get a massage or you go to the spa, that's one form of therapeutic accompaniment. But for this model, we look at things like presence, we look at active listening, we look at respect, we look at empathy, we look at authenticity. And presence is powerful. If you're taking note, your presence is powerful in the space of an individual who is having a mental health moment. I call it a mental health moment. I don't want to say episode. I don't want to say issue. They are having a mental health moment, right? So you want to, again, actively listen. Let them talk the way they talk. Here's the only way I say you interject in there. If they have if there's a language barrier, right? Maybe they're speaking, but their English might be a little accented with wherever they're from. That's when you get to do something there. But you want to be respectful. You want to understand empathy in a non-judgmental way. Fix your attitude. If you have an attitude that day, you're menopausal, you're whatever, don't engage in trying to assist somebody because your attitude is bad. And an attitude is like perfume. It'll foul up the whole place. You ever walk in a room and you can feel like, it's been some arguing in here. It's been something evil in here. That's why every Halloween people want to go to these places because they want to feel the evil. People you are helping in a mental health crisis don't need to feel nothing from you but hope and love. You want to keep authenticity. You don't want to start talking like a valley girl. Because I'm talking to a white woman, so now I've got to act like I'm white. Because you're white, so I want to talk like you, so you'll hear me. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. I know that's hard for me to tell y'all, but people do that. People have a whole different face at work. I have a girlfriend. We've been friends since for years. I said, do not put that tone on with me. You do that when you selling your products. You straight up lies to me. I don't know this. When you talk like that, I don't know who you are. So we must understand the difference. Somebody say the difference. Say the difference makes the difference. Because so many times people are calling 911 when they need to be calling 988. Why? Because they don't know the difference between a crisis and an emergency. I am married to a pastor, and I had to teach him this. I'm like, I don't know about you. You know, I'm at the age, it takes me a long time to get in that deep REM sleep. And if that phone is ringing at 2:30, I'm very sympathetic, very empathetic. But baby, that's a crisis. That's a crisis. The difference is an emergency is characterized by a sense of danger, meaning somebody's leg is broke, a neck is broke, a back is broke, somebody's house is on fire, somebody's house is being broken into. This whole group perished. Death isn't imminent. You call 911 for that. 988 is when a person is feeling helpless. They are feeling helpless. The number is 988. This number was established 1 year ago. It's managed by a national nonprofit. Y'all listen, 1 year ago, 988 was established. Why? Because people in crisis don't need to be. What's that number? What is that number? That 1-800-777-9311. What is that number? You're not going to remember that number, but you'll remember 988. And you want to get people to help quick, right? You want to get them there quick. We talked about mutuality, right? In helping, in companioning, in this model. And what it looks like, this is what Reverend Craig, who created this model, says if you're going to help a person in a mental health distress circumstance, then the markers of mutuality look like I'm deepening, honest, and authentic. There's reciprocity. There's an expanded care of circle, meaning I'm not your end all, your be all, and your do all, right? There's growing individual responsibility. It's okay to help that individual be responsible, and to be responsible may be getting them to take the first step to get some help, right? Then you build trust. Then you remind them that they have a network, and if they don't, that can be established through what? Family, through friends, through church groups, through bingo groups, through places of community and connection. The other thing that is key, I know any questions, comments, or ahas? I've said quite a lot.
Well, I think when people say, oh, I'm sorry, wouldn't that be an example of being sympathetic rather than empathetic?
It could be. It very could be. But if I'm going to assist you, a surgeon never says, I'm sorry, I got to cut you. I want to get that lump out,
I'm
but,
talking about,
right.
I'm just saying, oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Right. This is me personal. You can do it the way you need to in that moment of crisis for that individual. I choose not to say that. Because for me, if somebody says, I'm sorry, it's another weight. And it's a tad bit burdensome. So I just don't say it. I used to. I don't say it anymore because I'm like, I don't want them to feel like there's something between us before I assist. Yes, ma'am.
In my experience, what I have found, and I hear it a lot, is that I'm sorry hasn't become a household word.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so casual when you're saying there's
No weight on it.
I
Mm-hmm.
have found myself saying, no, you're not.
Right.
Just get down to it.
Mm-hmm.
I do it.
Perfect.
Silently speaks.
Yeah.
Before I realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, once you learn these 5 models, you got to manifest that the way you would manifest it. That may work for you and among your crew, but all the training and coaching and counseling I do, I have just chosen to do that. The third session brings us to another component that you would probably think, I don't know if this is necessary, but self-care is very important. You practice self-care every time you fly on a plane, and it says you must put on the oxygen mask first before you attempt to help anybody else if a distressing moment comes up. So what do we learn? What does this model teach us? It teaches us that only a healthy you can be what? I'm trying to get y'all to talk while I sip that water. Y'all supposed to say in harmony. Only a healthy you can be. And that's how that works. That's why we have the issue of burnout. Burnout can turn into a mental health issue because it's stress, it's anxiety. So self-care means knowing your limits and recognizing when you are doing more than you can handle. That's when you use the power of no. The gift of no. Ooh, I like that. The gift and the power of no. Because I have to take care of me. And if I don't take care of me, it's no way I'm going to be able to take care of you. That's why the woman in the Bible cried out to God. She had a little bit of meal and a little bit of oil. And she's like, wow, God, this is the last meal me and my son are going to eat before we die. You know how stressful that was for her? You know how stressful it was for the mother of Jesus to watch her son be treated the way he was treated? That's my boy. That's who drank from my breast. And y'all are doing him like that? You think Mother Mary had any stress, any mental health? You think she was traumatized by that moment? So when you think about scripture, you got to think about it beyond, go to the next layer. I just be thinking about stuff like that, like how when Jonah jumped ship, it's many theories. Did he really? I don't know, but I know he jumped ship. I know I'm not going to jump off of the love boat in the middle of my vacation cruise into waters I know nothing about, right? When you look at the prophet Elijah under the juniper tree, he was running from the prophetess Jezebel, who had killed like 800 prophets. And here Elijah is like, God, he under the tree. The Bible says he was twisting his hair. Like, what are we going to do? I'm scared. I'm scared of Jezebel. Many stories. Judas was traumatized by his decision. And as a result, he took his own life. So suicide and trauma and all this stuff we talking about, we acting like it ain't in the Bible, and it is in the Bible. This is why faith and culture and mental health have to come together. So what do these teams look like? These teams look like companions need companionship too. You need help too. Nestled in the life of a community and informed by community ways of care and conduct. What does this mean? That means whatever community you're going into to serve, make sure you understand the community's ways, how they flow, how they function. You know, you had a whole lot of Caucasian teachers going into impoverished schools in certain school districts across the nations, not because they cared, not because they were nestled in the community ways of caring and conduct. They wanted their student loans paid off. How do you think those students felt when they found that out? You're not here because you really want to educate me. You want your student loans paid off. Ew, that's horrible. But you want to also, with your team, I said you want to go with another person. Don't try to go, stand up, Tom. Stand up, Tom. Tim.
Okay, Tom's.
See how tall he is? What I look like trying to, he fall out because he fainted, because I'm talking to him, we out in the heat, and he faint. I can't pick him up. I can't do that. So I need a team member. I need a teammate. I need the tribe. I don't need the whole tribe or the whole village. I just need one other person with me, because maybe I can help them understand the community. This is why in certain communities people say, he a wife beater. But now the language has changed. It's intimate partner violence. When I go in certain communities of color and I be talking like that, I have to hear people tell their story the way they tell their story, if you know what I mean. They be like, what's that? What's intimate partner violence? He a wife beater or a beater. So I can't come up in there. I got to come up there in communities' ways of caring and conduct myself appropriately. So we look at companion teams. This is you and your partner as a time to gather together, a time to honor the relationship. Also where you're doing what you're doing now. You are engaging in thoughtful education and enrichment. Y'all say what y'all want to say, but I bet when you leave here, you're going to know something about companioning that you never knew before. Then you want to sit back and talk with that girl. When we work with him, what you think we could have done better? What did we do good at? Where did we fail? Where did we drop the ball? How can we improve serving? So where am I going to meet these people? Where? You're not going to leave out of this conference and go look for folks who are in distress, because they may be right in your home. It may be you, right? So if I'm at Starbucks or if I'm at these new coffee shops, I could be at the park. I don't know if folk out in the heat on them park benches. It's too hot, right? I thought about as a kid when I was in elementary school and we'd be on the playground with the monkey balls. But baby, you get down that slide. Remember how you'd be burnt? You'd be burnt because it was just what happened. So park bench, okay, Reverend Craig, I'm going to stick with what you said. But we want to make sure that we do communities of faith, whatever faith, Baptist, Methodist, Episcopalian, Unitarian, Buddhist, shaman, whatever the faith is. Then there are community organizations like the YMCA, YWCA, all kind of Jazz in the Park, Meals on Wheels. It's all kind of places you can do this. Now we do understand that the companionship and the new normal, the companionship was facilitated one way, but now we have a new normal. We have a new normal since COVID, y'all. It's a new normal. And what does that new normal look like? It looks like self-quarantining, and it looks like social distancing. The new normal in this model says we're going to reach out anyway. We might have to be creative. We might have to use social media, but I'm going to reach out. And hopefully services that were closed are now reopened. Then I'm going to practice. Somebody say practice makes permanent. Have you ever heard that? I just gave you something new to add to your vocabulary. Practice makes permanent. Permanent. Now, you've heard it said another way. What's the other way that it's said? Nothing's perfect. Nothing. We'll never know perfection in the way God meant for it until we meet Him. So nothing's perfect, but I can practice these and it can become a permanent part of my space. How much time? What time are we supposed to stop? At 2? Take this picture. I wanted y'all to see this so bad. This is a perfect understanding of sympathy and empathy. Go home and look at it. It's 2 minutes on YouTube. Take a look at it. You're going to see where you need to up the ante on your sympathy and on your empathy. You got it? Brene Brown did a phenomenal thing. You know what? I'm a bite the bullet. Y'all want to play it or you want to go home and look at it? Let's play. Play that DJ. DJ, come on. Play that song. This is going to help you. Because we don't know. We always think more highly of ourselves, right? And I found out I ain't got no empathy. I found out I was like, I'm empty on empathy. Not anymore. Pay attention.
So what is empathy and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you can climb down. I know what it's like down here. And you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
What did you hear in that resonates with you? Anybody want to share? I like also like the fact, she said a response is always not going to make things right. Just being there, that's what you got. Good. What did you get out of that video? So did y'all understand the difference between sympathy and empathy? Girl, my man left me. Girl, be glad you had one to leave under the gate. Somebody stole my car. At least you had a car to steal. Sympathy. You want to know the difference, so as you are communicating, you make sure you have a proper balance of the two. When someone's parent or child died, don't say, you know what, that happened to me too. It ain't about you in that moment. It's about you servicing and being there for that individual who's in that distress. I want you all to read this out loud. This is going to get in the soil of your soul and your spirit. Reverend Craig came up with this benediction, and on the count of 3, I'd like you to all read it out loud as we come to a close on this matter. 1, 2, 3.
I'm grateful for all who have been present in my life with tenderness, understanding, hope, and support. May I, in turn, share healing, recovery, and well-being with my neighbor. May our companionship together be guided by sensitivity and compassion, honoring the dignity of every one of us.
Doesn't that feel good? That just feels like a good hug. A hug of healing. I love that. And Reverend Craig created a covenant. You may want to take a picture of this. And his covenant says that we are all called to learn the ways that make for mental health and emotional well-being. We commit ourselves to be a place, a space, a home, not taking them into your home, where all of us may grow in body, mind, heart, and spirit. Some say spirit, soul, and body. But as we are able, because you have limits and you're not going to always be able. Remember we talked about limits and boundaries? As we are able, then we share the journey of what? Healing and recovery, and help to build a caring what? Community, nation, and world. It is the butterfly effect. My colleague, Lisa Oliveira, said something that I just had to close with. She says, quote, just because no one else can heal or do your inner work for you, this is the person you're helping. This is what you're saying to them. Just because no one can heal or do your inner work for you doesn't mean you can, should, or need to do it alone. Remember we opened up with the Shonda Rhimes quote, you are not alone. I am with you. I see you. You are not alone. So the companioning work is helping to come alongside folks so that they know that they are not alone. This is my opportunity to invite you to be my special guest. I am a coach, counselor, and consultant on trauma, mental health, epigenetic, intergenerational trauma, historical trauma, all things emotional, and every month, either you can come and pay my counseling fee, or you can hop on twice a month. Every first and third Tuesday night of the month, I take 1 hour out of my life and I share it with the community in what I call matters of the mind. It is a community conversation on trauma and mental wellness. I want to talk about it, but I want to push us to a place of wellness. For the month of September, we're going to be talking about identifying self-sabotage. How you are looping and tripping yourself up and it's giving you anxiety, depression, defeatism. These things matter to you being healthy spirit, soul, and body. I also, for the month of October, I'm going to be talking about why attitude is more important than IQ. You think your IQ is what opens doors and gets you in places and gets you connected with people, but I'm going to show you it's all about your attitude. And if you have the right attitude, this is something to tweet, you will have good altitude. Oh, that's good. If you have the right attitude, you'll have the good altitude. I do this on 2 platforms. I do it on Zoom. This is the Zoom number. If you want to take a picture of this, you can hop on. There's no passcode. Or you can join me on Facebook Live. I started this work, rather in 2020 when COVID hit, because I just wanted to have a place for people to come and dump and drop, but also come and get help. And I can tell y'all, I have reached over 10,000 people just doing just a little small thing, right? The numbers don't matter. What matters is lives, people's lives are being changed because they are becoming aware, and we are breaking silence, stigma, and shame. This is me. You want any more information? That's a little bit of something. I am all over social media. You can check me out. God is good. You are good. And thank you for your time. That's my time. Are there any final questions, thoughts, or ahas before we leave?
Do you record the Tuesday meetings?
On Zoom. And on Facebook. Like if y'all go to my Facebook page now, you'll be able to go back and take a look at that, at those sessions, because they're there. Also, I have a Facebook page called Kickstart Your Life. Lot of stuff on there to help you. Lot of connections, lot of resources, yada, yada, yada. This is my life. This is my life's work. I'm in the best season of my life because I am helping people recover and have access to wellness. Thank you.